Hi guys, I hope everyone is doing great. So, today I'll make a review of a substrate. This is not a 6-month review because you'll see in the next weeks, months. But I'll make a kind of mid review video of Herp, the substrate that is in Utahima's enclosure and in Sarada's enclosure. Let's go.
領域展開エビの部屋
So, I have to be honest, and I'll be honest as every review, or I didn't make a lot of review, but whatever. So, this substrate is great. I can't say anything else for now. It's great. It works great. It just works actually. It's and you expect it from a substrate, to work the way it should. But what I have to say is that, for example, this is maybe another video, but I'll move it here just for a sec. This is because I humidified. But the fact is that when you have the, how can I say it? When what I do when I have to increase the humidity, which is not the case today, and not the case since I have this thing in there, is that I pour water in it, like you take a glass of water. I don't take glasses of water, but you have what I mean. Glass of water in it, and you let the substrate suck the water, like I do with this one here. But what I have to be honest with is that in my case, I'm talking about my experience. It's not the general experience, it's my experience. It takes quite a time to absorb all the water, because I'll show you, when I'm working in this enclosure and I put water in it, for example, under this thing here, and I have water in there, I look like 48 hours or 3 days after I put water, and there is still water here on the glass and not all in the substrate, which can be like a problem in some ways, I can say, because you were just you want to humidify, and it takes a lot of time to humidify it, or it will humidify actually, but you will have water, still water, standing water in your substrate, which is not why you put, for example, cocoa substrate, which is here the only problem I have until now. It's this one. And also, when you mist your enclosure, because I made both, when you mist the enclosure, the problem is the substrate is wet. It doesn't really absorb the water, but I have to be honest, always put things in perspective, but such a small thing can't absorb a lot of water, which is normal because it's small. It's not like a sponge or something. It's a natural sponge, but it's not like it won't drain water the same way as a big block, like Chevy heavy block like this, So put it in perspective of what it is, it works great, but in my opinion, in my experience, it's not the way I prefer to use it, because I don't want a wet substrate. What I like is having a substrate that is humid, that keeps humidity well, which does. It keeps humidity well when it's not wet. It keeps humidity well, but the thing is that it's just like, if it stays wet, it's not super great. It's not like the death for your snake for a couple of hours, but repeat it for days and days and days and days. For example, you have a snake that you have to mist a couple of times a week, and it stays wet. It's maybe not the best substrate you can find. It works really well. It looks super naturalistic. It works the way it should. and blah blah blah. It all works really great. I like it. I'll be honest, I like it, even though there are some problems. I like it. It keeps humidity well when it's not completely dry like in serratas, but the way it is in Utahime's enclosure, which is why I take her as a prime example for this, is that it works great when you use it, for example, for carpet. It will use the same way. It will work the same way with the ball python. So it's not a substrate like you would have some substrate where you like, I don't recommend it to you, but you have to know that if it's, and also something, but always keep in perspective all the time. Perspective is, it is a small substrate. It is a small, it's not a, like, let's take an example from here. It's not a review of the other one, but because I already did one, but when you take, this is a small chunk of the big chunk there, and I'll put it here, and you take a big chunk, I would say, big chunk of this one, you have like, you have a pretty big difference, and the difference is the size. So when you have, for example, when you are working with the cocoa and you are just, you want big chunks, they will do it a certain way, so it keeps only the big chunks. And so less dust, because the big chunks are less, it's bigger, so the dusts go through the thing they use to choose from the substrate, the cocoa. But with the smaller one, it's more difficult because it's smaller, so it's closer to the size of dust. And then if it's closer to the size of dust, well, of course there's more dust. But for a substrate this size, I have to be honest, there is not that much of dust. And the greatest example I can give you is the example of Serrata's enclosure again. Because if I take this thing out and I put here the substrate, I'll take like this, like I did the other one, like this, and there is not so much dust. You can't even see it. I see it in the, I don't even know if you see it on the camera, but there is dust because, put that in perspective, as always, put this in perspective, if you're working with, let's take an extreme, you're working with eco earth, right? Eco earth. It's almost dust, so you can't expect to have no dust. If you work with that kind of thing, so big chunks, you will have less dust because it's chosen to be bigger, so less closer to dust sites, right? And if it's closer to dust site, like eco earth, like here or PZ, well, you will have more dust. But you have to put in perspective, and I'm pretty honest with it, there's not so much dust. There's not as much dust I expected, and not as much dust as you can see here when I prepare it. By the way, when preparing, I will put here photos of how you should do it, because I did like a bit like a dumbass, because I thought it was the way, and because, yeah, so I did that way. It didn't work great, but you will have the pictures here on my face or something to see how it should look like and how you should do it. But yeah, that's something else. So yeah, this is pretty much, the way I expect things to work, and it works great. It holds humidity well. The only problem I had is that, for example, for a week or two, the substrate, when you use it, like, you use it, you prepare it, blah blah blah, you put it in there directly without waiting, you will have a wet environment. You won't have a humid environment, you will more have a wet environment. So if you wait a little bit, I don't know, maybe you'll wait like a day or maybe a couple of hours. It won't be wet. It was my experience again. I won't say it's bad. I won't say it's great. I will just say it works great. Will I use it again? I don't know, because I don't like wet substrate. It works great. It looks great. What I like about it, and it's the same as the small for cocoa, it's smaller, so it looks more like earth, like real earth than big chunks. But again, it's small, it's more dustier and stuff. Even though there is not much dust, but I'm habituated to not have a lot of dust, and I hate dust. Even though I work at EcoEarth, which is dust, but whatever. And yeah, so if I had to give a note out of 10, I would maybe, oh yeah, and before that, it absorbs really well. It absorbs urate really well. It works great, you know. My personal preference, and I'll be honest, I maybe won't use it again, maybe for babies, but you know, as the carpets are getting bigger, as the corn snakes are getting bigger, I won't use it anymore. Maybe for babies, like I said, for baby ball pythons, baby carpets, baby corn snakes, and maybe not corn snake, but you see what I mean. For babies, also because why? Because it's soft. It's amazingly soft. So for example, when you have it's soft, so the babies won't feel like stitch, and you know, like they won't feel anything. They will just do great. They will like feel soft and like on a thing you sleep on it, a cushion, for example. You know, like Huggies. You know, it will feel great, I think, in this kind of substrate. So maybe for babies I will use it again, but for adults, for bigger snakes, that's my personal preference, not for the reason I explained earlier. You know, if I had to give it a note out of 10, I said in the first video, I think 6.5 or 7. I would give it a solid 7 out of 5, 8 out of 5, something 7 to 8. So let's say it's 7.5. You know, because I was surprisingly happy with it. You know, I worked with other type of substrate like this, and it was a nightmare. And this one, I don't know, maybe I prepared it very well. Maybe I used the experience with the other ones better with this one. I don't know. This is all thing, I don't know. But, you know, I feel like it is not as bad. It's great. You know, as I said, it's great. But as I said, I won't use it anymore, I think, for these snakes here around. Maybe for babies, maybe not. I think I can use it for babies. I will use it, I don't know. We'll see that. This is not a whole lot of video. This one, but conclusion, yes, it's a great substrate. Is it for me? I don't think so. For my situation, you know, around here, for example, now it's as you, I don't know if you can see it, it's pretty dry here, and I need a substrate that can keep humidity without getting wet. You see what I mean? So here it's pretty great. I opened the enclosure, so it dropped, but I think it's really great. It's a great substrate. If you want it, go for it. You know, if it's you love small chips, if you love a more naturalistic, more like ground substrate, go for it. If you have not a dry environment, go for it. Too dry of an environment, or if you have for a corn snake, you can go for it even though you have a dry environment. Go for it, you know. Go for it if it's the type of substrate you want. You know, is it this type of substrate I want for adults? No. Is it the type of substrate I want for snakes, baby snakes, small snakes? Yes, it is. I'll be honest, it is. So, I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share. Don't forget to stay strong brands group. Don't forget to support USR. Don't forget to support reptile, responsible reptile keeping. I remember the name, guys. Don't forget to join Prickly and Arctic Pets group. And I hope to see you on the next one. Let's go.